nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. You ain't seen nobody like this. You ain't seen nobody like this. You hear my sound all over town singing. Whoa. I think there's something in the water. If you wanna take a sip, but be careful what you wish for. The faint of heart can't handle it. Everybody wants a piece of someone else's prize, but it ain't free, it don't come cheap. Only the strongest will survive. You ain't seen nobody like this.
Good evening and welcome to SA Soccer Roundtable. My name is Harry. Running a little short tonight. Just Rafa, and Rafa's playing about 50%, 60%.
Probably 90%.
I believe you went to a concert last night, so it sounds like you smoked 2 packs today. But thank you for here. Unfortunately, Royce and the family are down ill again. So hopefully speedy recovery for Royce and the family. For that here, kids going back to school, new germs into the family. It's going to be interesting. I know AJ and Anna just started high school today, so we will see. Anything going on with you, Rafa, besides reliving some youth last night?
Yeah, I sang Def Leppard's and Motley Crue's and Poison's greatest hits last night. So and probably over 50,000 other people there too. So it was a good show. It was a good show.
Wow, 50,000! Wow.
Yeah, it was. I think it was sold out. So, I mean, there was not a seat empty. So I like to see that at one of our SAFC games coming up, especially against San Diego. But so it was a good good show. But looking forward for tonight's show with all the craziness on Saturday and stuff to talk about.
So Matt, let's go. I was almost going to reach out to you, but I thought Robert was going to be. Robert may be busy with work or something. Like I said here, unfortunately, he hasn't shown up yet, but he may show up. We will also be having a guest, Soccer by Brian. Mr. Brian Cook covers Indy 11 for that here, so big fan. Has worked, I believe, in the media or along those lines in the past. I asked him if he was doing anything officially, and at this point he's not. But looking forward to kind of having that discussion and the Jordan Farr return back to Indy. I know he is still loved by Indy fans up there, and of course, if you know Jordan, he has nothing but respect for his time up in Indianapolis. So that should be interesting. An old NASL matchup for us that have been around long enough.
Sure, he doesn't miss the snow over there.
But I'm assuming he'd probably enjoy the weather a little bit during the summer a lot better. But so first thing, as always, initial thoughts on the week. Anything cool, interesting that you did?
Well, when I got back home from the game, I was able to kind of tune into the Clásico Joven, the Club America Cruz Azul game, which is always a big game. And man, they really went out on this game because all the theatrics that they had. Well, Club America put a pounding on them. They won 7-0.
Yeah, that was the game that a touchdown was scored. I saw.
Yeah. And then every time they scored a goal, I was surprised they even did it because they've never done this before. They were shooting bombs and flames behind the goal. I'm like, hey, I think we need that at our stadium. It's pretty goal. This is just a thought.
Well, at the end of the show, we'll discuss. But if they're having issues with flags, there's no way we're having other stuff. So. Any cool college things that you went to?
I didn't get to go to. Yeah, I didn't get to go to their game, the Sunday game, because of the show. I think they played Texas Southern, so I'm sure they went on that one. And there's some other teams that'll be coming up. Hopefully, we can check them out, like Texas A&M, San Antonio. I think they're going to start their season pretty soon. I think Trinity is as well.
Trinity, St. Mary's, UIW. So
UIW.
I know the Athenians former coach
Mhm.
is coaching UIW.
Yeah, he's I think the interim coach. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully that success he had with the Athenians, kind of rubs off on the UIW girls, and should have a good season. So hopefully they can get you know into the conference tournament and win it. And I know UTSA, same thing with them. I think they're a lot different team from last year, a lot better. I know they had a little setback with one of the games we went, with a tie with Houston Baptist, but I think I can see the talent level there. It's a lot better. They're more physical, they're a lot faster. They just kind of need to piece it, and I think when the time they'll piece it together, I think Conference USA better look out for them because I think they're going to contend this year.
Yeah, and there's some quality in CUSA soccer, and like I said, especially next year when they step up to the AAC. I believe they have a pretty strong soccer conference as well. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that. But outside of baseball, I think most of the sport is a step up. I do know CUSA is very strong in baseball, and I think that's the one sport where you may have kind of a weakness on. Before we get into the San Antonio FC, we'll just kind of do the news and notes a little bit here because we're going to have Brian come on around 8:15. But just your thoughts here, coaching drama in USL Championship. We had Rick Shantz that was fired. Then Juan Guerrero was placed on a leave of absence from the Oakland Roots. And then there'd been rumors, kind of a worst kept secret, that when he came from Rising, so I understand the ties. Today he was officially announced by Rising. There may or may not have been some compensation depending on which side that you speak to. But I think on how the article is written, I do think there was some sort of compensation paid. And also the first one of the first assistants from the Roots is going to be going down to Phoenix. They got 10 games. They play El Paso, who are doing what Tom Petty did, sung about in Free Falling. So they're free falling down the standings, and we'll see if they can stand back up. The other big news, former Houston Dynamo coach Tab Ramos was hired by Hartford. It's a good coach. I was talking to Red from 451 podcast, or we tweeted a little bit. And he makes a great point that Tab is a little bit still raw when it comes to coaching. He had some decent runs with the U20 teams before that here. Although when you look at the World Cup results, probably wasn't the best, but he got them to there, which is not something that our senior team could do. And then his time in Houston was, it was a disaster. But I don't know if that was on him or more the GM and stuff along those lines here. So, two questions on Tab. Do you think it's a good hire by Hartford?
I think so, because what do they got to lose? They've always been kind of like a team that's been in the cellar in the Eastern Conference, and so they need to make a big splash. So why not him? You bring in some fans, but you also, he'll be able to make this team grow and so forth, and also he's going to end up gaining more experience. Like as you mentioned, he's a raw coach, and I think coaching USL is going to help that. And I think maybe he sees what what Landon Donald's doing at San Diego. It's like, it just might be a good spot for me to kind of build my chops here, and then maybe eventually I'll get back at the MLS because with Dynamo was basically a dumpster, as it has been a dumpster fire and still are.
And currently is so far this year. Yeah. If you look at the standings, I hate to say that, Dynamo fans, but now looking at you're below RGV in the Copa Shield by 0.13 points, which at this stage is a significant amount.
Yeah, so that itself, it's a good move for him, and as I can say, it's good. I think eventually, we'll maybe see him back in the MLS, but this is a good way to kind of, if he can really build this team, make him at least get him into the playoff. I know he may not get him in the playoffs this year, but if he can build the team, get him in the playoffs next year, the sky's the limit with him. And don't be surprised he ends up back at MLS.
Yeah, and like I said, there's already been whispers of Landon possibly getting promoted to MLS. We'll see if you know. I don't think that's going to happen with San Jose. I think they've
Already
already went a different direction. But he was in discussions with them, and I do think that the quality that he can bring, he brings name value, which I think for USL is, you know, is number one. It benefits them because, you know, when he was hired, he had all the major soccer media. So it'll be highlight there. Hartford, as you mentioned, I think it's a good marketplace. The problem with Hartford so far, and I don't know if it's an ownership issue, paying the money, or they haven't been able to keep a coach. When they get a quality coach, they typically move on quickly, or, you know. So to me, I hope they give Tab time to be able to build it. Hope they can develop a youth system, because obviously Tab does very well with the youth, you know, in coaching the U20s for that here. The other half of that equation, Juan Guerrero going to Phoenix. The issue that I have with it, if you're going to be making this move, you should have did it previously. You've got 10 games left, and right now you're 5 points out of the playoffs. El Paso's in 7th at 34th. They're tied for 10th at 29 points, and then, you know, in between them's Oakland, LA Galaxy along those lines. So they do have some games in hand. So it is possible. I just think you give yourself no wiggle room for that here. But, you know, we've been discussing even on our show that Rising needed a change. Do you think 10 games is enough to come in and reshape the locker room if they're just needing a different voice?
It's a fresh start for them, but, you know, does he have the players that he wants there? That's the issue.
You ain't bringing anybody else in now,
yeah,
right?
And I don't know if there's even anyone available that's going to fit his system. You saw what they did with one of our old guys, ship him out to Tulsa.
Oh, Epps.
Epps, you know, he just didn't fit their system. So, and I'm just also kind of wondering if USL, you know, doesn't see some little suspicion here, like any tampering, like, hey, we're gonna fire him, we'll bring you here. I know Oakland got compensated, but it's also kind of fishy that the USL didn't, like, hey, this is kind of tampering.
From the whispers I'm hearing is they don't, but it's something that they, you know, obviously it's something that they need to have. Now, I don't know that concrete. There's been some whispers on social media that it was a free, you know, that Oakland didn't get any compensation, which that I do find a little bit difficult to believe. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, Oakland, you know, made a lot of money out of it, but I do believe there was some compensation.
And then Oakland's still in the fight too for that playoff spot. And I was like, I think that's really going to affect them, because if they are losing their top assistant, you know,
they're losing their head guy and a top assistant. So
now you're losing your, you know, good part of your staff. You know, how is the players going to respond to this? And especially like with us going over there to their place in a couple of weeks, you know, and what could have been a really tough, difficult matchup. Now is there's some uncertainty because we don't know you know, as far as the style, you know, how is Oakland going to react to this, not having Guerra as their coach and having somebody else that maybe are not familiar. They may be familiar with the staff, but not familiar with their style of play and so forth. So, you know, is this going to cost Oakland, you know, an opportunity again to sneak in to get one of those final playoff spots?
I think it does. I don't. Juan is from everything that I've heard, is a quality coach. He's got the ties to Phoenix, so I understand why he went back. You know, I have no issue that he is in Phoenix. I have issue on how it went down. And I do think you're going to see in the offseason, if there isn't rules, you're going to see those rules hopefully implemented, you know, along the ownership lines, along those lines here to kind of prevent it, because it does seem a little bit dirty that you're taking from a playoff competitor the coach and the first assistant, you know, while in season. If it's after the season, your season's over, I got no issues with it. But during the season, especially this close to the playoffs, I'm not going to lie to you, it rubs me a little bit wrong, but we've seen this in other sports as well. Oakland took I'm assuming Oakland could have probably pushed it a little bit, tied him up a little bit longer, but was it worth it in the long run? where at this point they get whatever compensation they got from Phoenix. And I think it does build up a little will that, if you have an opportunity for a better job, and let's face it, Phoenix is a better job than Oakland, that Oakland will work within reason for that here. So moving on to San Antonio FC, let's get into that 2-2 draw. Let me ask you your impression before we get into it.
Mhm.
The Crocketeers, through their chant app, had a prediction. I did 3-1, but when I actually looked at most of the predictions, everybody was like 3-0, 3-0, 3-1. Wasn't going to be close. It was at that point that I was like, we may be in trouble. And if you paid attention to RGV, yes, the results haven't been there, but it's not because they're playing poorly on the defensive side. They just haven't been able to finish. It was like us 2 years ago where you had everything but the finishing on here. Your thoughts going in, especially at the tailgate, I don't want to say everybody was overconfident, but it didn't have that same feel of the intensity. Hey, this is the CopaTejas against RGV. I think everybody's like, hey, it's RGV. They're in last place and nothing to worry about.
When it comes to rivalry games, the records are off the shelf. They don't come into play. And I'm going to tell you that when I coached in Del Rio, our rivals will pass. And the year we won district, they're in last place. They brought it to us, and we got lucky, and we snuck out with a 1-0 win right before the playoffs. And, our kids kind of went in with a big head, and I told them not to. I said, you can't underestimate rivalry games. You can't. They're going to bring out the best of you, because they got something to prove. It's about pride, and it's with any rivalry game. It's about playing about pride. You may lose all the games, but if you win that one rivalry game, that's going to mean a lot. And also, Edson, I think last one we had Edson made a good point. Like I said, he talked about the defense. The defense, they've been solid. We watch. It's like he said, if your offense is not scoring goals, you're going to get tired. It's going to wear you out. And and I think that was kind of some
similar to what happened this game late.
Yeah, like with a big head going in, like we should take care of business and all that. Like I said, there's no game in any game. I mean, look at the Loudon game. We should have won 6-0 that game, and even a couple of some of the other games beforehand. And if it's not your night and you're off, that's when especially a rivalry game. You might end up losing it. So I think next year, like I said, next time we play a rivalry game, we can't take them lightly because the gloves are off there. It's what we're about. It's about pride and defending your badge, and that's what RGV came in. But like I said, RGV still had something to play for because they're not far away to play for. Yeah, they're still not far from getting the last playoff spot. And look what they did last year. Nobody thought they were going to get, and they snuck in, knocked off Phoenix, and they came to play with us. We took care of business, but still, it was still a game. So those are my thoughts going into this game. I knew it was going to be close. We just had to make sure we take care of business.
So line up in the traditional Sam, Patino, Dillon up top, Mahoney, Gomez on the sides, Abu Hernandez because he's out due to the suspension. Backline Tainer, Kamiri, Abdul Salam in for Garcia, second game in a row that Garcia's missed, and of course Jordan Farr. On the bench, you had Jordan Ambiela, Jordi Delim, Ataf Diaf, Christian Pirano was on the bench, number 19, Nacho Collier, and I forget the backup name of the goalie, not listed on here. So we had a full team. So I want to just address something up front here. We're going to just address it because it was a point in the game. The referee, and let me just say this. I thought he was poor, but in the key moments, San Antonio got big calls, like that offsides call on the goal by Eric Pimentel. I don't know if he was offside or not. I know Edson put a clip up after the ball was kicked and it was 5 yards, and I believe it's Tainer that's making him online. To me, it had to be right when the ball was kicked. He was doing what Patino does, which typically is a step outside of what the defenders are. And if he didn't get back across when the ball was kicked, even though he got back ahead, that I don't know. And that is one of the bad things on Toyota Field is the camera position on those there at that line. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought he scored, but we sat behind the goal, so obviously, we weren't looking down the line. But San Antonio got 7 yellows, 4 in the first half. To me, I don't want to go full out on the referee, because I do think San Antonio may, if you look at it overall, like Robert Coronado, yellow card for something that's minor in my opinion, that we've seen other people do, and it didn't really make a difference. But I'm all like, what, it didn't pay off. Yeah, I understand giving the first yellow card. He kind of infringed again and then kind of laughed, and the ref didn't like that. But to me, the biggest benefit is, and it'll come up in the highlights here, is the offsides. Your thoughts on the referee? Just in general, since Danielle's been on the show, I don't like to attack them too much, but as far as for a crowd, the crowd was on the referees this match, and the crowd was on the referee early for that here. So your thoughts on the referee, so we can get that subject, put to bed.
Good thing we're not in South America, because it would have been a lot worse for the ref. He just wasn't consistent. Like when we noticed, like when we were watching, there were some fouls that they fall on us, and they didn't look, and they weren't accounting for given for us.
They were soft. Yeah, they were
soft.
They were soft fouls.
But then reversed, we would foul them, and it'd be the same type of foul, and you'd get a card and this and that. And a lot of it just got too ridiculous. I think he got lost in the moment of wanting to be the spotlight of the game, take control, because it was a big game. It's a rivalry game, and but one thing is, I'm surprised his officiating crew, even his fourth referee and the linesman, even at halftime, kind of have a talk to him and say, hey, normally, like I said, I remember when I used to officiate before I started coaching high school, and we would discuss, hey, you do something wrong, or, hey, can you help me out here and this and that. There's got to be better communication and so forth. But a lot of those fouls should have, those cards shouldn't have happened. And that goal that they disallowed, I guess it depends on where the linesman was at.
Mm-hmm.
And he may have been, and maybe he was a step ahead before that.
But he stood by that call, though, because what kind of made it odd is they restarted the game,
mm-hmm.
and the ref was still over with the AR having that discussion, to where we're like, it was almost like a VAR discussion where, hey, what's going on? Because the play, I think Jordan had kicked the ball up, and they're like, hey, no, bring it back. And it just to me, just to be fair, and I'll say, I was going to save this towards the end, but for San Antonio, despite getting results, if you actually look at the results right now, they're not playing great. They're not playing as well as they were a month ago.
I think a lot has to do. We're just playing a bunch of kickball, and I know we're not a position team, but our quality of passing stinks right now.
Yeah,
and that's what I mentioned. If you look at the stats, anyone has a chance to look at the stats, our passing accuracy sucks, and we need to have a lot better passing accuracy on their side of the field, on their end of their inside the box, and that's probably where it's hurting, why we're not scoring a bunch of goals like some of the other games. But Aracena needs to kind of make a change. He needs to kind of change it up a bit and say, hey, let's play a little more possession, but also play the ball as far as more as accuracies, because there were some good passes, but there were some that should have been good passes, but especially like down the wing, especially when trying to do overlaps. I think there's one of Maloney tried to send one down the line, but our forward just couldn't reach it. It was just a bad pass. And I think that's something if you're going to win a championship, you need to have better passing accuracy, especially in the attacking third of the opponent. So that's one thing that needs to be fixed.
And I think the only thing that kept San Antonio in the match, they had 206 passes. Accurate passes was at 63%, and that was an improvement from halftime. In the first half, they had 82 passes, 42 were accurate. In the second half, they picked it up to 70%. And you mentioned that during the game that they had, you got to have your passing's got to be at 70. If it's at 70 or better, you're typically good. But if you're worse than 70, what we saw in the first half is what happened. So
because some of those passes led to some of the counterattacks for those goals, which we're going to see.
So let's look at the video here. Second here.
As we are set to go, it is the final installment of the South Texas Derby in 2022. With Hayden Partan and our entire crew, I'm Dan Weiss. Thanks for joining us here.
See you, Jordan. Obviously organizing.
This is the RGV goal here.
Bends out, brought down first time. Pinzon gets it a goal and it's in. Christian Pinzon as it takes a deflection.
Another area we need to fix is we are bad at defending and corner kicks.
Which is surprising.
The first touch, the composure there.
But that was a deflected ball, though. But yeah. you got to give them to RGV. They got it in there.
There's something that they killed us here a lot, and I'm surprised Marcina did not recognize a lot of this.
Ward making the run in space, and Ward makes it two. No doubt.
Quality goal by Akeem Ward. My question is
he's doing his Nicky Hernandez impression there.
Abdul Salam, I think he gets caught on the wrong side.
If you see him there, he's ball watching instead of looking at the player. He knows that he needs to cover that overlap, and if he doesn't ball watch, if you go back a little bit, on that play, you see how we are the defending, the nearest person to the ball
back here, and his head's over here.
Yeah, where he needs to be, his eyes on is on that runner or the other defender up top. He should be focused. Like I said, he's focused on the guy with the ball, and just that play just got called ball watching, allow that overlap to go, and him to get the. If he's able to not call ball watching for that, he cuts off that play.
Well, to me, you can tell he feels the pressure because he's coming in, but yet you got a Akeem Ward that's on it, that's racing down. He's still, because as you mentioned, he's looking the wrong direction.
Now it's Akeem Ward making the
unless Akeem Ward's just faster, but
yeah, no doubt about that one. The 36th minute Akeem Ward.
That's a heck of a shot, though. You got to give Akeem Ward credit. Just like who was it last week?
Nicky
Hernandez and his shot, kind of that same line there where he took advantage of it. So.
What I've noticed in this game is we were allowing a lot of play on the outside, especially overlaps, through balls.
Maybe a little bit.
And Marcina never made those adjustments early on, and that's why it allowed us to like this goal.
Just a little
and we're being exposed. That's something that we didn't have the last two games.
And this was just a little unlucky to start and very lucky at the end.
Brings it down and hits the woodwork himself.
That'll probably put the game away for us there. And for him to miss that.
Number one, the missed post and the guy following up. This is the controversial play from the RGV side. And unfortunately, none of the videos that we can see show that it is.
And RGV is up 3 or not. The flag is up. A late flag comes up.
But it wasn't a late flag. It was a flag early. He had it called right from the start.
Yeah, he called it from the start. So he saw something that caused that offsides. I think had Pimentel left that ball alone, I think it was number 17. He was onside. If he touches it, that's a 3-0 lead.
Can he open up? He can! He puts it in! Shannon Gomez! San Antonio!
Shannon with a good play there. I think this goal, though, gets set up on the
flick here
from
onto
Collier.
Shannon Gomez, and he just keeps it simple. Takes the touch.
He schooled him there, especially right through between the legs.
I know.
Shannon,
Go ahead.
so Shannon's been playing lights out these last few games.
I know when Edson did his first show, I haven't watched the second one here. This is one of those moments that when he was talking to us, that RGV on their defenses has that one mistake, or those couple of mistakes. He felt that this was one of their mistakes here, where they left Shannon, who's a quality player, one-on-one, and of course Shannon being an international player has the talent to be able to finish.
Well, he's defending them well. It's just Shannon.
But no, just having the one-on-one, though, just leaving him one-on-one.
Yeah, but even if you're defending him one-on-one, I mean, that's great. I mean, he's defending them well. He's closing the space. It's just Shannon's able to get the great shot between his legs, and that's tough also to defend. If you're thinking he's going to reach out for a shot and ends up going between your legs, and the goalie, not anticipating that. So, like I said, the defender did well defending that play, but Shannon just made a sweet shot.
To me, if Collier hits this on the first time, I think it goes, well, assuming he doesn't sky it, but I have a feeling he buries it.
Yeah, he missed. He whiffed on that one.
Oh, man.
And then did a little twirl.
Post and makes the save. A little bit more value in one than the other.
What a sweet, nice little.
They're actually listening to us.
Okay.
And enter in the play, the advantage, and Dinnerin missing on the strike.
He's got to pass that, right?
And it belongs
Yeah,
to
that
Dinnerin.
or there should have been a foul call in the back because.
Should he have?
Yeah, they're actually
So I
listening
guess
to
for
us.
you, should he went down here, or do you think it was the right play to go?
But he was able to fight that off, but the ref never gave him a card. Now, would it have been a red? No, because we still have that defender on the scene. But you see right there, once he kind of did right there, he could have tipped it, pitched the ball to the outside. I think that's what Nacho
Over here.
I believe. Yeah, if he touches that little pass, sides passes, that Nacho's got an open net on the backside.
And enter in the play, the advantage.
Just look at the space of the other defender. He gives that pass. Nacho's got an open goal for that, and the goalie's not going to stop that.
And enter in the play, the advantage.
Yeah, so he shoots it already here.
Yeah,
So he would have had to 306.
yeah. He needs be a little more patient on that. And I know that he wanted to get it right away, but
Because on this one here, he's setting up the shoot right now. And to be fair, fair, this defender still over here, where I think it makes the pass a little bit harder to see from here, and I think that's why he ends up shooting it directly.
But on that play, you see how the goalkeeper kind of inches closer to the inside, to the near post. Once he sees that defender coming, he's got to realize, okay, I have the goalie on one side. I can play it right there. You see Nacho asking for the ball there, and it's a tip-in. I mean, he gets it, it's a goal.
Flips it to the back post. Headed!
How this isn't nominated for goal of the week, I don't know.
Tanner doing his Stretch Armstrong impersonation on that one. I don't know how he stretched out to that. I mean, that's
Drives right through and kind of lofts it back post.
there's your USL MVP.
I think so. I don't think he'll get it, but I think they'll give it. And here's the ref giving him a second card. Robert Carnato's like, what, really?
And I think the forfeit told him already, and I think that's why I think the forfeit probably signaled, hey, boot him out.
So stat-wise, for this match here, second here. Possession 58-42. Not surprisingly, RGV typically has it. We still outshot them 12-11. Each shot had 5 shots on target. We had 5 corners. This is the part that I think San Antonio fans are upset about. 18 fouls for us, 7 yellow cards, 16 fouls for RGV, 4 yellow cards, and of course the 1 red. And their yellow cards came extremely late. They did hit the woodwork twice. For that here, each keeper had 3 saves. We talked about the passing. Tackles 19-10, interceptions 14-13, clearances 19-17. It was a pretty even game. I think everybody would agree to that. Now, I'm sure if you listen to Down in the Valley, Edson and Jacob, they're going to have a different take on the game here, especially when it comes to the refereeing. For the here, I know Jacob took offense to some of the actions, which it is what it is.
But they may say they're up 2-0. You got to learn how to put teams away, and that's what I think Edson mentioned about that they've had trouble putting teams away.
So the big to me, there's kind of a couple of big things. Number one, the Tainer goal. He just has that knack of scoring when the pressure's there. Kamiri coming out at the half, I think was a precaution because he was on a yellow. No Garcia. So they're still kind of doing a makeshift back line, but they've got the depth to be able to do it. To me, the biggest news was Christian Pirano, him coming on at halftime, 45 minutes. Do you foresee him getting starting minutes quickly?
I could see that later.
Or was this just a game where they had to put him on just because?
Yeah, you had to put him on. But he did make RGV a little bit nervous, because they know what type of player he is. Very shafty, speed wise, great dribbler, cheeky on his passes, finding the space. And so I think they were concerned about it because he did open kind of the game up a little bit. But some of the substitutions, I kind of question, do we really need to take out Patino at halfway? Because
they took him out in the 58th minute for Elliott Collier.
He still looked fresh. I mean, he wasn't running up and down. I mean, I think he needs eventually, especially in the playoffs, he's got to learn how to play 90 minutes.
Well, Royce isn't here, but to me, if I'm subbing somebody out, it's Dylan.
Yeah.
Because we needed more. In my opinion, we needed more speed, and I think if you're gonna bring in Collier, you bring him in for Dylan, because that's still gonna keep Patino in there. It still allows that his presence on there with Sam. I just think that would have been the play. And I have a feeling Royce would differ on that here. But yeah.
But here's the crazy part, and I mentioned this to you. We had 4 forwards playing on our game. Adiodarin, Nacho, Collier, and Dylan. And we're like, well, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, because they subbed out Abdul Salam in the 66th minute and brought in Nacho. And then I think it was who Jordy moved back, right?
Jordy moved back.
Yeah. Well, Jordy came in for Kamiri. Who came? So you had Tainer, you had Delim, and then you had.
I think they moved Shannon back.
Yeah, Shannon Gomez was the one that filled that third center back role on there, and you have to admit it worked. I don't know if it's a winning strategy against all teams, but as we discussed against RGV and the height, and I think that was the problem that hurt Kamiri, is their forward didn't even get to his shoulders, and so any contact Kamiri was doing, unfortunately it's unfair against the big guys, but the contact looks way worse than what it actually is. Along those lines, I know RGV and listening to Edson and them were equally frustrated with the substitute pattern from their side. And this isn't the first time that Coach Wilmer Cabrera's had that issue where he's leaving players out there way too long. Down in the valley and Edson feels here, but another match where you walked away with points. But I think if you would have said going in that you walk away with a draw, would the fans have been as receptive on how it worked out?
Yeah, I think everyone was expecting on also since they were in the cellar to blow this team out, especially not having Frank Lopez and the troubles that we're having up top. But like I said, when it comes to rivalry games, you just can't take anybody lightly. And like I said, RGV came in with what do we have to lose attitude, and it was able to get 2 goals. But Wilmer, I don't know what's up with his coaching, especially with the substitutions he's made, and he just didn't make the right adjustments, and he allowed us to come because as we're building momentum, we're getting there. He just never found a way to kill that momentum, and that's why ended up. They should have won that game. We should have lost. But
yeah, I don't. For me, I don't think that. If I said this, Edson had kind of a after the match Twitter space. I felt like it was one of those games where, like in the past, San Antonio was on the other side where they were up, and it's a game that they felt like that they lost, even though it was a draw. Where I think this time the roles were reversed, where RGV was up and San Antonio came back, with that monster mentality and or mentality monsters, and came back to get the draw. Looking at the standings here, Brian mentioned that he is on his way in, getting the computer warmed up, and in Indianapolis, just like their season, it's off to a slow start for that here. So,
but that game RGV, I think that this game could haunt them if they miss, as far if they get behind, like a point behind that last playoff spot. They had us on the ropes. Then they didn't. It was kind of like the Usman USC, like he dominated the first 5 rounds, and then boom, we hit him with 2 goals and knocked them out and took them out, and that's what happened in this game.
So here's the problem for San Antonio, and it's not so much being in the West, going to impact them in the West. Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Doing well here. Let me run through the standings, and then we'll bring you on and talk Indy here. So the problem with San Antonio dropping the points on here is if you actually look at the standings for home field throughout the playoffs, the advantage now leans to Louisville. They're at 55 points, 24 matches played, followed by, and I have to give this team respect here, Memphis at 51 points, although, they lost to Legion, who swept them. Rowdies had a rough week after losing to Louisville, went to Colorado Springs, and somehow Colorado found some defense and won 1-0, which is unsurprisingly for switchbacks, especially lately. Legion in 4th at 47 points. The Riverhounds had a day like San Antonio where they lost, they tied. It feels like a loss when you actually think about it, but tied the team last in the standings, New York Red Bulls at 44. Miami FC starting to get some distance, 40 points. Although they play Louisville, they beat Hartford. Detroit City lost to Louisville on a PK that I guess was questionable, despite the home announcers. That I think was the big story from that match, how they couldn't let it go. Tulsa, the Fighting Sam Doors, are trying to make a run for it. Still in 8th at 31 points. Detroit City's at 39. I don't think Tulsa can close the gap. Brian's team, we'll talk about their season here, but they're at 22. They are ahead of Loudoun at 21, Hartford at 20, Charleston at 17, Atlanta United at 16, and the Wooden Spoon winners, most likely the Red Bulls. Out west, San Antonio's up, still 5 points on San Diego with the game in hand at 57 points. San Diego at 52 points. They rolled El Paso 3-1 in El Paso. They get Oakland Roots in their next match, which should be interesting with the new coach or interim coach. Switchbacks stop their slide with 45 points. They get New Mexico next, who are right behind them at 42. So that's a pretty pivotal game to see who can get 3rd or 4th. Sacramento suffered a loss to Vegas for that here, so they're at 40 points. Right behind them, who plays RGV. Next is Vegas at 37. And then here's where it gets interesting. El Paso is at 34 points, Galaxy at 33 points, Roots at 30 points, Rising and Monterey is at 29 points, Orange County and RGV's at 27 points. So 10 games left for most of them. Actually 7 games left for El Paso. To me, El Paso is in big trouble. But to me, there's nobody out of it in the West. If RGV can get on a good run, Orange County can get on a good run, Rising, if they can make it get warm, that 7th spot is still open, and I would still even throw the lights in there where you just don't know the consistency of them if they're going to be able to do. Your thoughts on the standings there, Rafa?
I think with El Paso, you mentioned about 7 games. They're gonna have to win at least 5 of them if they're gonna at least get that.
They play Phoenix,
which right now, well, we'll see what Phoenix does, because just because they got a new coach doesn't guarantee results. So, we've seen that before, but it's going to be a dogfight for that last playoff spot, and I'm sure as long as we can stay ahead, stay number 1. We'll let San Diego worry about that, because that's what happened last year to Phoenix. They're not, we'll take care of business, and they get knocked off by RGV. So it's going to come down. And then the East, like I said, I think it's already kind of shaping up on which teams are going to make the playoffs. I'll
just leave it at this. The East has hosted the finals every year. I'm not saying why or how, just, magically, rough night in San Antonio with the referees. Louisville is on the other side of the calls from from the referees in Detroit. Just saying that somehow magically the East always tends to host. Brian, welcome. Followed you for many years. I think even going back to the NASL years when you had coverage with Indy 11, and I know we're SAFC podcast, but this will be the 7th game between San Antonio and Indy 11, where San Antonio does have a winning record, 4 wins compared to Indy winning 2, no draws back in the NASL. So first of all, I'm glad you're feeling much better. If you followed Brian at all, you saw that he's had some health issues here. So first of all, glad you're up and running and back to I don't know if you're full health yet, but you're at least getting there.
I think I'm like 90%. I'd say 90, 95. I mowed the lawn today, and I normally get tired by that, but I'm really tired by that today. So that was about the most strenuous thing that I've done since I got home. But yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a long period of time, and I think the biggest blessing I have is there's a chunk of period of time where I don't have any memory of it, from getting admitted to the hospital until about 10 days afterwards. I have no memory, and my wife and her family and my family keep telling me I am incredibly blessed to not have any memory, because it was apparently very scary. So I've been through the ringer, to put it lightly.
But we're glad you're here. I know you've been a huge fan of Indy for a while, and like I said here, it's awesome that you were able to be on the show here tonight. So before we get into your season, to me the biggest news of the year for Indy 11 is the downtown stadium set to break in 2023. Possible opening in 2025. We know how that works for that here, but it's going to be for men's and women's team here. So obviously we're not from Indy, but how big of a deal is that for Indy 11 to be able to get that downtown stadium to where you're not playing at Ooey Booey or was it the RCA Dome where the Colts?
Yeah. It's massive, honestly. I mean, I think around here, Carroll Stadium is kind of known as Indy 11 Stadium, even if they don't want to claim it. But I think getting their own home and their own brand and having one location, especially when we had that weird season where they played in Lucas Oil Stadium and then we went back to Carroll Stadium, I think having one location where everyone who attends games or even is remotely interested knows that's where you're going to see the team, I think that is inherently valuable for any level of any sport in the country. So I followed it when it was first getting passed, and I'm just glad to see it officially become a real thing. And it's going to be awesome.
The women's team, and I know it's probably still up in the air as far as that. Do you anticipate that being NWSL or more USL Super League? Any inside knowledge that you can share on that, if there is any?
I don't have any. I don't have any inside knowledge. I think if you ask a lot of the fans, a lot of them wouldn't mind to see an NWSL team here.
Like
I think I really do think that it can have a good, strong support, especially because anything that's attached to Indy 11, for the most part, that comes out of it, even when that short run that they had an NPSL team, the Brickyard Battalion does a great job at supporting any team that comes out of Indy 11 as a brand. So especially when the women's team this year was well supported. So I think that the city and the state can support an NWSL team. I don't have any inside knowledge, unfortunately, but I definitely think it could be a thing.
But it would be awesome with Racing Louisville to have an NWSL between Louisville and Indianapolis. If you're not aware, that is a rivalry that's for the ages. I forget what you guys call it, but it's a bunch of acronyms that I'm just like, yeah, okay.
The Louisville Indianapolis Proximity Association football contest. I'm never going to be able to say that without stuttering again. But yes, it's LIPA, whatever you want to call it, FC. But yeah, that would be inherent value in having an NWSL team.
So the other big news, which I thought was major news, and I'll give credit to Kaler, from Hammering Down. He said slow your roll as far as with Indy 11. But when they brought in Coach Mark Lowry, who I thought had the opportunity for MLS, I don't know if he was ever given the position, but I think he had the resume for it. Had a good start, off to a slow start, had the good run in April, and then since then. Things that haven't gone their way here, but your thoughts on having Coach Lowry come in? I know it's year one, probably hasn't got the roster turnover exactly how he wants it as of yet. But your thoughts on them bringing in Coach Lowry, because that was one of the big signings of the offseason.
Yeah, I was a big fan of it. And truth be told, when it got announced, I don't think I foresaw it coming. It definitely wasn't something that I anticipated. And I can definitely agree. And if you follow me on Twitter, I have said it repeatedly. This is not the team he wants. And that's not me getting a quote from him. That's me having followed his time in El Paso and then seeing him here and obviously reading quotes and everything else. This is not the team he wants and not the team he needs. But it's honestly, when you look at the landscape of lower division U.S. soccer, even U.S. soccer as a whole, he's one of the best coaches in the country. And that's not me being hyperbolic about it. That's me being honest about it. So I think when it got announced, it was unbelievably massive. And especially when you consider that the former head coach for Indy 11 was basically kicked out the door by the fans, let alone the front office. I definitely think that he was a welcome face, and I think he's been refreshingly blunt about how poor the results have been in interviews. There have been numerous clips where he's just, I think the infamous one that I keep bringing up is where he basically said they're not trying, and he said that just standing on the sideline, and I was like, I don't remember having a refreshingly honest head coach on this field. So I think when he got brought in, it was unbelievably massive for the club, and I think he'll be exceptionally good for the future.
And like I said, I think it kind of fed into unfair expectations for Indy 11, because I know I had, I was like, well, hey, they got Mark Lowry. He's automatically going to have them at that playoff level, maybe not as a high seed, but he'd be kind of where Tulsa is. Unfortunately, talking about on-field performance, the last win for Indy was June 4th over Charleston. Since then, 13 matches, 2 draws, 11 losses, and unfortunately, 7 of those were Indy was held scoreless. So, without going too deep into it, just I know RGV had issues on finishing is that kind of the same thing going on with Indy 11? Is just the finished product?
It's so hard for me because every week that I've seen a loss, I've wanted to look through statistics and try to find something and try to understand what this team's doing. And it really just simply comes down to putting the ball into the back of the net. And it's so simple to say that. But I think the big thing, and the thing I want to encourage any Indy 11 fans that, watch this team week to week is steadfast. They have slowly started to get better and get better quality chances. And I think that's all you really can do, even if when you're not hitting it. I think the best way to look at it, and the thing I've always reminded myself, was when I was a kid and I played junior basketball, I was better on defense than offense. But whenever I shot the ball, my mom would always encourage me at the end. She was like, you just got to keep shooting. You got to keep doing it. Even if you're missing every shot, eventually you're going to hit one. I never really made one, but the analogy holds true that Indy 11 just needs to keep trying and doing what they're doing and improving and everything else. And I think eventually we're going to see a much better Indy 11 team than we've seen in weeks past. God, they're painful to watch right now.
Rafa, you have any thoughts? I know you're more technical on there, but any thoughts technical-wise as far as that you want to bring up with Indy 11, see what they do?
Yeah, Brian, what do you think about Lowry's style as far as his technical play with these players? Do you think he has the right players, or you just kind of like, hey, I'm going to build from this for next season and get the right people that fits the system that I'm coaching in?
I don't believe he has the right players, and I know this isn't encouraging for some people. I think Solomon Asante, when he played for Phoenix, was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But the Asante we're seeing on the field for Indy is like the ghost of that player. I think he's gotten better the last few weeks. I've seen him get better chances, and he's getting a little bit more daring. But it's just, I'm not sold that this is the team he wanted. I think this is the team he got. And in the first year of what's going to be a rebuild, and I think everybody that I've been talking to, the supporters and everything else, keep thinking that a rebuild is going to take a year, and then magically it's going to be fixed. And I think long term, you can't rebuild a team at any level in this sport in a year. I think you get really lucky when you can turn it around, but I think wholeheartedly you can't rebuild a team in a year. And I don't think this is going to be 3, 4, 5 years, but I think when you look back at successful teams from the past, they got, the right players at the right time and the right mixture. So I think guys like Asante are great, but I don't know if that's somebody who really fits what he's wanting to do in that diamond formation, which is what he said he's wanted to use.
So Edson has a question here for you, asking how Jesus Vasquez is doing.
He's a beast. I love him. Honestly, like I don't have any issue with any of the guys that have been brought in mid-season. He's been doing great, and I really don't have any complaints for him.
So this is the first game back for Jordan Farr. Obviously, if you follow Indy 11, if you follow San Antonio, wherever he goes, he's loved. He's a great guy, great in the community along those lines. So I don't anticipate him getting a poor reception initially, but during the game, during the 90 minutes, obviously he's not playing for Team Honda. He's playing for Team Toyota. So your thoughts on Jordan coming back to Indy 11 and kind of what that means for Indy 11 fans and what to kind of expect?
Well, I think especially at this level, when you look at some of the most successful players that have been in any team, let alone Indy, the most successful players that have been at Indy have been the ones that have not only been good on the field, but have been good off the field. And I think Jordan embodied that. They had, in the midst of the COVID season, they had a Rocket League tournament, and I think he joined into that. And he's absolutely loved here. And I think when I remember going back and seeing the list of players getting retained and everything else, and it made sense at the time. I think Lowry wanted to kind of shake things up and didn't necessarily care. And the problem with retention lists at the end of the year is we don't know the full story all the time. So we don't know if it's a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, if the player wanted out no matter what. But when he got announced that he wasn't coming back, Jordan wasn't coming back this year, fans were sad.
Yes.
Not only was he good in the net, but he was just such a good community person. I think at this level, you need those good community people and good players on the field. It's a rarity, but when you get those, you want to hold on to it for as long as possible. So I think Jordan's an unbelievable person. I think he's obviously a great goalkeeper. And I think when he gets here, he's going to be in for a wonderful welcome back to the city, even if it's not in the jersey that we want him to be in.
So I will say this, and I know this is going to be kind of weird to say, but Matt Cardone getting hurt at the end of the first half of the last game changed the whole trajectory of both for San Antonio and Indy 11, because he came to us on an emergency loan for the playoffs. He got a taste of what San Antonio's like. Obviously, him and his family liked it, and that's why they wanted to come back or came back down here. It just to me that one injury just changed everything, because I do wonder if he didn't go on that playoff that emergency loan stint in the playoffs, as if he's still in Indy 11 at Indy for this year.
Yeah, I mean that loan at the time, I was kind of shaking my head and rubbing my eyes. I was like, what?
Everybody was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, why is Jordan going down to Texas? That doesn't make any sense.
So
and
San
honestly,
Antonio can bring, have their starting goalkeeper hurt, have a guy that's inexperienced, but yet bring in another proven goalkeeper from another team, and that's allowed.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Brian, did you expect Jordan to play when he came down here for the emergency loan to play that way?
No. I mean, in the back of my mind, as the fan side of me, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, just don't be good. I don't want to lose. Just don't, because we had that happen. I think it was one of the seasons when the NASL was still around. Oh man, I'm forgetting his name. Oh, Christian Nick went to Montreal, and it was the same thing, that they had an injury and they were in the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yeah,
and he went in to fill that in. And then every time, I'm so proud to see these guys that have worn the shirt and embodied the shirt and everything else. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't be good. Like, be just average, because I don't want you to go there, because I want to keep seeing you in that shirt. And that was the same thing when Jordan went down to San Antonio. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, we'll get to see him. But I'm like, just don't let them take you from us. But yeah, no, I didn't anticipate that he was going to be as good as he was and as good as he is. But you know what? That's the reason that you guys ended up with him.
And I talked to Cue the Smoke when this happened, the podcast, one of the podcasts for Indy 11. They were so heartbroken, when he left, and just because he was such a community guy, and he's just a great guy, obviously, for both things there. But yeah, to me, it was surreal, to where we were kind of having communications at that time going, hey, do you think it's realistic? You think he would? And they're like, no, he's going to be a priority. And then all of a sudden he signed in San Antonio. And then we signed a second goalkeeper at the time from Colombia that, played on the Colombia national team, U20 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We're like,
the first
what
team
happened? So, because Jordan didn't start the season as a starter. He was second until Christian retired here. Robert has a question here for you. What on San Antonio are you worried about, and why? So either who, what, or what kind of problems are you worried about from San Antonio?
Everything. Is that not an okay answer? No, I mean, it's the problem that Indy has had all year is they are very good for 43 minutes in the first half and about 80, like up to the 88th minute in the second half. They just, for some reason, this team is incapable of playing 90 minutes of soccer or 95 minutes or whatever the case may be. So I think for any team that Indy's played this season, I'm worried that they are going to have mental lapses during the game. And that's easy because it's a worry that you have every time. But this team has shown time and time again that they cannot concentrate for a full 45 minutes of either half. So I think that's for San Antonio, that's got to be their key, is they just have to look for those opportunities. Even though I think that they're going to have plenty of opportunities, they have to look for those opportunities because those are the ones that they've conceded the most in. It's just the times where for some reason they just aren't closing down guys right outside the box. They're not pressing hard enough. They're pressing too hard and they're letting a pass go through. It's just playing full 45 minutes each half.
Any questions that you have for Brian before we let him go, and then we do the wrap up here, or any other European, I guess this week's European as far as conversations, with you, Rafa?
I was going to ask, what do you think about, as far as technically, what should we expect from Indy 11 as far as technically, as far as going into this game?
I think the big thing that I am fascinated by is I've seen their style change game to game, especially as Mark has gotten more aggressive with what he's trying to do. So I think it's just going to be if Indy gets a strong start, how San Antonio adjusts to that. And honestly, I feel like this game, I'm hoping anyway, let me put it this way. I think this game will be, but I'm also hoping that this will be a very good chess match for both sides. The big thing that I haven't liked is just obviously all the losses that Indians have, but they've stayed competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big thing is just if they can hold on to the competitiveness and we can see a good match, that's at this rate, I'm holding on to that week to week, is I just want good matches. So,
and I will say Coach Lowry has held his own against San Antonio. So he knows how to play, Coach Marcina's system. Now, whether he has the horses to do it or not in Indy, that's a whole separate discussion for that here. But as far as for coaching, he knows what San Antonio is. San Antonio hasn't changed a whole lot under Alan Marcina. He still runs the pretty much the same thing. It may change a little bit, but to me, the chess match that you're talking about between Lowry and Marcina, I think will be very interesting to see on here. I know San Antonio is going to be going, I think, for a tying USL tying record, 11th win, if memory serves me right. So they'll have the ability to tie, or they're getting close to that. San Antonio's 10-0-3, or 10 wins, 3 losses on the road, where Indy 11 at home in 11 matches is 4 wins, 2 draws, and 5 losses. So. But they've had a rough season. But they're at home. But at home, goals for 12, goals against 13. So it's that one. It's those 1-0 games that right now Indy's losing instead of winning right now.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for me is I would love. I love seeing any former player, let alone Jordan Farr, being successful. But if he could just not be successful when he's in town, that would be great. Because God, we need a break. But no, I think it's going to be a good match. And I think if I'm portraying any message to anybody listening for Indy, I don't think the results dictate or represent the quality of play that they've had. And I think that's something I've tried to hammer home repeatedly is, it's very easy to look at a loss in the a conceded goal in the 90th minute and go, oh, they're losing again. But I think we have seen during this painful streak, I think we have seen a team that has improved over time. And I think it's started to look like a Mark Lowry team, even if it's not, 100%. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think San Antonio's probably going to win. And I know
San Antonio should, on paper, San Antonio should win. But
I'm not afraid to admit that.
San Antonio was lucky to get away against Loudoun. And they came back strong against Vegas. As we discussed, they were lucky to get away with the win against RGV. So, they're not quite on the Riverhounds roll right now where you don't know which team's showing up. But this team's not playing its best at this time, in my opinion. some of it has to do with tactics from the other teams. Some of it's player rotation with injury, suspensions, and along those lines. But every team's dealing with that at this point. So I think it'll be interesting because this will be the first game in 4 or 5 matches where we'll have a Boo and PC available most likely. So which is kind of our heart and soul in the backfield, and we'll see if Garcia comes back. Although Indy plays on turf though, right?
They just got a new turf laid. It's great to have a stadium announcement and then have a whole new field laid out too. But they just had new. I think it's turf. I don't know if
but it's not grass though.
It's much better than what it was. As much as I've been told, it's much better than the war zone, craters that were on the field at times. So, but yeah, it should be a really fun game. And I think the big thing for San Antonio, looking at it, is Indy's lost consistently, but you don't want to be the team that gives them a win.
Yeah.
So it's the danger of playing teams that are underperforming is at some point, they have to actually perform at the level that they should, and you don't want to be the team that gives them that opportunity.
The only way San Antonio has lost this year is when they don't score. Unfortunately, I don't see, as much as I like Indy 11, I don't think their defense is as strong to be able to keep San Antonio from scoring. That's now that stats are meant to be broken, and I'm sure let me knock on some wood here to make sure I don't curse San Antonio. But any questions that you have for us, Brian? Like I said, here, much appreciated and awesome to get to chat with you. Anytime, whether it's on Twitter or through the podcast here. Any questions you have for us?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. I haven't gotten to do this in quite some time, so it's great that you guys have me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I reached out to you, and then I reached out to Cue the Smoke, and I sent a message to John at USL Tactics, and I was like, I think I kind of messed up. And he's like, why? I was like, you're an Indy 11 fan. I could have asked you, and then we could have expanded to all of your great information that you have. But
yeah, he's much smarter than me.
Because he just does so much, right now. And then he's, it's like, but I forgot you were an Indy 11 fan. And he's like, well, that's actually a compliment because for that year. So.
Yeah, he's much smarter than me, so I'm not afraid to admit that.
I don't know about that. I think when you get back into the swing of things, you'll be doing good. Get off, I won't say get off Football Manager, but I know that that'll never happen. But
no.
It's fun following you and in your seasons on Football Manager. Going, I should do that, and then I do it, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm just not that analytic type of a guy to hang out from year to year to year like you do. So.
I'll win that Champions League one year. It's been a decade, but I'll win it one day.
I get frustrated, and then I do the whole edit, and then I'm like, yep, okay. Yep, Harry's team's stacked again. So.
Harry was frustrated all this past spring with my team winning, coming back.
So if you want to hang around, Brian, like I said, you're more than welcome to do so. If you need to bail, you can. Rafa, any world soccer that we need to talk about here this week?
I know there's some CONCACAF games. Actually, some FIFA dates coming up in September. I think there's some key games
for men's or women's.
For men's, I believe. I did see some of the women's U20. I think Brazil and Japan were in the semifinals, and I think the Netherlands and Spain. So those are your final 4 teams for the women's World Cup for under 20. Or the ladies from Mexico just fell a game short, but they got that big win over Germany. So
that was a huge win, yeah.
That was a big win for them. So that's a good building block for them for the future to build.
Well, they had a poor CONCACAF qualifying for the World Cup, right? Or Olympics.
Yeah,
I forget which one that they finished last, I think, which was surprising.
Or like second. I think they just missed out. I think they were like in the 3rd spot, like the 4th spot or something. And they made some firings, and there were some investigations with the teams and some monkey business, and so they cleaned house. And I don't know who's going to take over for the women's team, but I'm sure they'll probably hire someone within, and hopefully they can rebuild. But you got to be optimistic with this U20 team doing what it did. Getting to the quarterfinal, you can use those players and build them. Build that momentum forward.
I'm trying to see what the next schedule is for CONCACAF. I believe you're right.
And then we had a big game today, Liverpool and Man U.
Saw that Liverpool. They're in trouble. It seems kind of weird to say, but they're kind of in trouble, aren't they?
I think they should have never let go Sané. He's killing it in Germany, but with the Bayern Munich.
But Man U's not back. Let me just stop that. Man U is not back. You got a 5'9" center back, and yes, he's a quality center back, but for EPL going against
and I know they got Casemiro the solo from Real Madrid, but he's not gonna make. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. I think he wants to play Europa Champions.
Man United won. We're back. Yeah. Man U being back is like University of Texas being back.
That's why I'm a Notre Dame fan.
I almost got beat up in the parking lot for
Chris. Shout out to Chris.
Chris was like, "Hey, what?"
I think another big game. I think finally Barcelona won a game. I think Lewandowski had a brace, but they were in a tough spot with Real Sociedad, and then what do you say about Real Madrid? I don't.
Did they ever? Were they able to bring in the players? I know you follow. La
but there's still some. Yeah, they were able to register them, but there's still some controversy, and I understand. I've heard from everybody like, well, you need them. If you don't have them, then it's basically a farmers league and so forth. It's true in to say, but you as a club president, you got to know how to take care of your books as far as money wise, and I kind of find it disrespectful that they're not honoring, contracts. Well, I need you to take another pay cut or this and that. This isn't the NFL. You made that contract with them. You honor it unless
they're guaranteed contracts, right? They're not like it's like the NBA where you sign it, you get it.
Yep. So, and I think the one thing I don't like is how they're doing with Frankie De Jong, and that can mess up his World Cup. Him not really getting playing time. If they kind of put him in the doghouse, that'll affect him as far as getting called up for his national team play to get ready. Because you got to look at it this way: all these teams right now, these games, it's preparation for the World Cup
right now. Yeah.
There's not going to be that many FIFA days to play other teams and so forth. I think like Mexico. I think they're playing Brazil in one of the games, and I forgot who else. And I forgot who the USA is going to play.
Speaking of Mexico, they lost a key component of the World Cup team.
Yeah,
correct?
Tecatito, yeah. But I've seen the last year and a half. He just has not been consistent, and this might be a blessing in disguise, and maybe this allows someone else to come in and step up. The one player that's really been stepping up, and he showed it on Saturday on that 7-0 win over Cruz Azul is Henry Martin from Club America. He's been on a roll. I think he's leading. I think he's in the top as far as leading goal scorers for Liga MX, and I know he's being looked at by a couple of European teams. But you keep an eye out on him. I think this is probably going to be an opportunity for him to get into that team and step up and show. I think a lot of them want to show what they can do, and there is a transfer window in January, and teams are going to be shopping to get ready to kind of bulk up for Champions League in the spring.
So I'm going to do my final thought here. Let me see if I can find it here.
There you see the wreck.
Let's see if I can get a better. We'll see if you've seen this highlight here. If I can find it here.
Not mentioned about Jose. Shout out to Jose and his team. They've been killing it. The whole little bit back in the first division.
Well, they've actually had a rough couple of slots here. Where did it go here? Why don't you do your final thought, and then I will do
Sure.
mine here because I'm trying to find it here. Oh, here we go.
I think my final thought is, you probably talk about this too as well. Um, I think our club team, especially people that work within the stadium, need to have a better understanding of the soccer culture. And when you have people that don't know that, it's going to cause issues, and that's how you lose fans. And if you want to fix that, and like I said, we did see a lot of empty spots in the stadium, and we've been seeing that constantly, and that shouldn't be happening right now. Especially right now, we're in first place. We should at least have a filled stadium.
First place, and our attendance average is 1,000 less than we had before COVID. Now, some of that may be, just budgets are a little tight, inflation along those lines. Don't get me wrong. A lot of it I put on the marketing, which we've kind of discussed, but there is a spectra, a huge amount on stadium staff, security mainly, and interactions with long-term season ticket members. I know the Czechs had an issue with their flag. I know we had issues with our flags. That we've had flags for at least the last 3 years, and it's never been an issue. The Czechs have always had a flag, especially going out home or away.
Yeah.
Have had flags out, and unfortunately this last match there was issues with security with it. To be fair, I did reach out to San Antonio FC. They said that they're going to look at it. There hasn't been a change in policy along those lines here, but it's that consistency. I think that the key that you're looking for is if it's acceptable for 12, 13 games, however many that we've played at home. Why is this one? Why is this game different? And it's not a complaint of, hey, the people behind you can't see, because that wasn't the reason. And I don't, usually when we're doing it, it's when a goal is scored or something along those lines. It's not like we're just standing up the whole game blocking the people behind us.
Yeah.
It's something that I think that as a season ticket member, it kind of makes me sad, because if you take people, they have a great time. You and I were talking about this pre-show here. Season ticket membership between supporters group, looking at Mission City. We estimated at one point they had a high of over 100 approximately. Now we're like at maybe 20 or less. CopaTejas, its season ticket membership is lower. 210 Alliance, and part of it has to do with that their leadership moved to Portland on it. Their membership has also gone down among supporters. Yes, I've heard at points that 2017, 2018. SAFC had between 3,000 to 4,000 season ticket members at that time. I think we're lucky if we have 1,500 to 2,000 at this point here, as far as season ticket members. And I think a big, if you look at the prices, yes, they've gone up. Especially on the sides. The west and east side. The bunker, I don't believe, went up, and I don't believe our section on the north side went up.
I think it went up $1. I believe.
Oh, down in the bunker.
No.
So, but yeah, everywhere else in the stadium went up $1 per game, which is $17-20. But that adds up if you got more than one seat. So for that here, but to me, I still think it's the best value in the game. I think 99 out of 100, it's a great environment. Security is awesome, but it's those one time that has it that leaves that bad taste. We already had a big issue, when it was the Austin match, especially in the supporters. This one here, I don't think it hasn't blown up, just because I don't think people are pushing the issue as much as they used to. and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Where do they not care as much, or is it just like, hey, nothing changes? And I'm not here to bash the San Antonio FC or anything along those lines. I have good communication, with the team. When it happened, I was, we were polite to the security guy. We were polite to the supervisor that came over, who didn't want to come over to talk to us. But I was like, no, if you're sending the security guy to come over saying, hey, you need to enforce this, you need to come over and explain why, why you're doing it. But, we stopped waving the flag. We abided by what, what they asked. But I did tell him that, hey, I'll reach out to San Antonio. He was like, go ahead. And I was like, all right, I did. So, and like that here, much appreciated with the communication I got from San Antonio FC when it comes to it. But as far as on the macro level, it hurts. It hurts the season ticket members. It hurts, this.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts people wanting to number one, re-sign up for their season tickets. Number two, if they stop, they're going to find other avenues to be able to go to different venues. Like you went to a concert, hey, do I go to San Antonio FC or do I go to a concert on Sunday for X reason? So,
or they go up 90 miles up 35 to the enemy.
to Austin. And I've been to an Austin FC match. It's hella expensive. Number one, but number two, I don't care for the team, and we've already discussed the MLS USL relationship, and I've kind of soured even a little bit more right now on watching MLS matches for that here. But if you go up there, it is a fun event, just because the environment. I'll give credit to the supporters group. In Texas, they are probably, and we saw it in our, when they came down to San Antonio, they brought down 500 people. That was the liveliest that Toyota Field has been. Part of it had to do with, hey, it's San Antonio, Austin. And part of it had to do with Los Verdes and Austin Anthem coming down, bringing the fans and bringing a great environment into where we had to step up our game on our side. So it's just, to me, it's one of those that I just chalked it up. Hey, inexperience, whatever, guy having a bad day, but the problem is they keep happening, and I think that's kind of your point on it here. I'll let you finish out your thing here.
I think another issue as far as the disconnect is like, the CopaTejas celebration. I think we should have celebrated that during halftime. We had fireworks at the end and so forth. I think we could have celebrated that, bring up all the leaders from the three groups, have them present the trophy to PC, because when they present at the end of the game, more wasn't really paying attention to it. They're more paying attention to, to they're getting ready for the fireworks, and like it kind of lost. They're like, hey, this is important. We won. This is our first ever trophy. We could have even done it even before the game. Have the players walk out with our three supporter group members walk out with the team with the trophy and hand it to the captain and so forth, and make it a big celebration. I think that would have livened up the game a little more. I think there's, like I said, there's a disconnect, from, and I'm not trying to bash them and so forth, that they need to find a better connection with the fans. And I see with other clubs, the one I see a lot was El Paso. I think they have a really good.
El Paso does a great job.
And I think they need to take a page from them as far as, how to connect with your fans and so forth, because being a first place team, we should have a lot more fans on the stadiums, and we're not seeing that. And then there's also more better support for all our three supporter groups as well too.
And I think Matt kind of puts it here. It's one of those, if they don't care, why win? That's how I see it. So as far as with the CopaTejas, so CopaTejas, I've bit my tongue on it. It was disappointing. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think the fans or the supporters group got to celebrate it the way it should have happened. To me, part of it had to do with, hey, we wanted it in El Paso for that here, but and as we found out with Austin winning the CopaTejas MLS trophy up in Dallas. They didn't do it on the pitch, and I understand why they didn't do it. And the Czechs got to go to the locker room, and it was a cool experience for them, and the pictures were awesome. But for the fans, because that's what it is, it's a supporters group, it's a fan-driven trophy. I don't think the fans got their fair share with it. With that here, I'll leave it at that.
It's kind of like the high school games, when they win the playoffs, you see them after the game, someone hands them the trophy, and they're celebrating not only with the team but also with the fans that show up to the game. So hopefully they need to fix that. And they can say hopefully we do go back to back CopaTejas champions next year and have a lot better celebration, because it is an important cup, because it is the first one this is the first trophy we ever won.
First trophy, yeah.
So it means a lot. It should mean a lot to the club and also to the players, because look at the hard work they've done, and also the hard work with the supporter groups too, cheering them on, So hopefully that can improve for next year.
Hopefully. My final thought, because my daughter's getting ready to, the internet went off and she's not happy, so we got to get off before the world breaks here. Wanted to show you this. I don't know if you saw this highlight for it here, but this is my final thought, and take a look.
There you see the records and the point totals. Omaha with just the 2 defeats all year long, as that long ball bounces over Holiday's head and bounces over the back of the net. What a start for Union Omaha. 30 seconds in. Who got the final touch? Who cares? Is that Kevin Faber's goal? Is that a goalie goal? I think it is.
And this is courtesy of League One Twitter.
Nobody expected this. All the way through.
Oh, come on, keeper.
You're a keeper. You're a keeper. Just one of those 1 in a million shots, right?
Yeah, he just caught. He caught
a little bit of bad luck.
Again, it's a strange pitch.
I mean, hopefully you try to score on him back. Do like goalie wars or something.
Bounces over Holiday's head.
Should have done a bicycle kick there. He could have probably carried that out.
So, but no, that's my final thought. Like I said here, it's, I know we kind of had the heavy subject here. The goalie goal, you see those maybe once a year in all of football for that year. So
if Jordan's watching, hopefully you can do one in Indy on Saturday.
USL League One, Twitter, obviously YouTube, it was a heck of a goal, and like I said here, to me, probably goal of the year for League One, most likely. It's their first goalkeeper goal in league history. So yes, Jordan, the bar has been raised. Not only do you got to have great saves, but we are now expecting 1 goal a year from you as well. So, or at least an assist. I'll take an assist, and he's came close a couple of times.
Yeah. If he scores, he's gonna have to do 2 flips,
2 in a row, or just
And a shout out to, like I said, him jumping in the stands on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
I was like, don't get hurt. We need you for the playoffs.
So, but Rafa, thanks for coming on. Thank you to Brian. You can follow Brian Cook at Soccer by Brian. Like I said, here's a great, great supporter of Indy 11. And I do think he'll probably get back into, because he used to write and do other stuff for it here. But like I said here, hopefully he gets back to covering the game like he wants. If you do follow him, expect a lot of Football Manager tweets and discussions and stuff like that, which, like I said here, it gets me interested every little bit. The game for Indy 11 is an early game at 6 o'clock. So unlike the West Coast games, this one will be an early one here. I don't know if the Crocketeers have came to it. And I did get a slap on the wrist from here that I've been saying it's the Crocketeers that have supported CopaTejas when it's actually the Crocketeers and 210 Alliance. That 2 supporters groups are in the in the San Antonio market. Help support and promote CopaTejas. So I do apologize for that here, and I'm sorry for that here. But Rafa, it's been fun. Hope you have a wonderful day. See you next week. We'll have to see if we do a watch party or something this weekend, either go to one or maybe do one impromptu on Saturday night for it here. But thank you. What's Life Without Goals? We're out of here. Peace.